Hola amigos, and welcome back to another episode of La Vida Verde podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Human, here on a warm and breezy day at Finca Vida Verde. My guest this week is my good friend, Brooke Ljeriman. Brooke is a longtime social justice activist and educator from New York City. She and her partner, Greg, are the founders of Watershed Center. It's a retreat center in the Hudson Valley, north of New York City. And she's also the mother of a 6-year-old daughter and one of our lovely neighbors in Aligria. I know she loves salsa dancing. It's going to be a great conversation. We hope you enjoy. Brooke Ljeriman.
Hello.
Welcome to La Vida Verde podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so nice to have you. We're going to start off this episode, and we talked about this. Bear with me. Thank you for bearing with me. We're going to do something totally different. Normally, our episodes have been sponsored by Ecovilla Mate. This week, we have another company from Ashland, Oregon, as it were. Another tea company. This is Wilderness Poets. And they're super great folks. They came here and stayed for a couple days, and they've offered to sponsor this episode. And they make these amazing matcha tea that they bring from Japan. Also, they do like nut butters, and I used to buy their products when I was in the Ashland Co-op back in my Oregon days. But they're like, just make some matcha on the episode, and we'll call it good. So we're going to do that. Have you ever made matcha?
I've never made matcha, but I'm obsessed with their products because I too got to partake in them.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I think it's called nooch.
The miso nooch.
Miso nooch that you sprinkle on
nuts.
Food, and it's so good.
I put that on everything, literally. They left us a bag too, right? Because we did like the Secret Santa thing, what did they call it? Yankee swap.
Yankee swap.
Yeah, and so did you take it from somebody?
I got a meat thermometer, and you won the matcha, so I was a little jealous. I ended up with the mooch later on.
Oh, the nooch was great. Yeah. I kind of held on to the matcha. I was like, nope, this is mine. Okay, so a half teaspoon of matcha. I just put a little more in because these are bigger cups. And then you pour in the water. I think there's a specific amount, but I'm just going to eye it here. That looks good. Okay, and then we get this neat little whisk that they brought from Japan. I don't know if you guys, if you're watching, you'll see this. If you can't, then just bear with me. We got this great matcha here. And it's this neat little bamboo whisk. Okay, it came with the product. And then we're just going to whisk it up. And you do a zigzag pattern, they said. All right. This is new. Bamboo is not going to last long here in Costa Rica, I'll tell you that. Yeah, I'll do it up here. Hold on. Yeah, hold it up while I do this. For those of you watching who want the aesthetic, a little ASMR. You want a little ASMR with the matcha, the whisk? Do you hear the whisk? You hear the whisk? We're whisking matcha right now. Okay. Well, this is green tea, so I don't want it to stain my counter. Oh, we could do that. There we go. Okay, and here you go.
Wow.
Would you like some? I made some fresh coconut milk.
I mean, that sounds heavenly.
A little dry. There we go. There
Thank
you go.
you.
Matcha latte for your episode.
Beautiful color green.
Salud.
Salud.
Okay. It's probably going to be. How's it?
Delicious.
Oh, so good. I love matcha. Okay. Sponsors, thank you so much, Wilderness Poets. We will continue to love and use your products as you generously donate them. Brooke Ljeriman, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Did you walk here, drive here?
I just went hiking way up the Machuca.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back from that hike, which is just so glorious.
You went up the Machuca?
We went up the Machuca to one of the larger waterfall sites just up this way. And
I know that spot.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah. Lexi's land is just past that, actually, or it's right near her land. So you've been to the river.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing cool river energy with you. That's nice. Okay, well, let's start from, I know you So first of all, Alan, Alan of Alan and Haya
Alan
Goodman. I couldn't remember his last name. Alan was the one who came to me. He's like, who would be a great guest for your podcast would be Brooke Lehman. She was involved in this, and this. And so I've been, thank you for obliging us. And I met you, we realized like we had some weird connections when you first got here. I met you at a wedding 20 years ago. At our friend Arrow and Tegan's wedding up in upstate New York, or in
You were like, "Oh, I've been to New York State," and you're like into the Hudson Valley.
Yeah,
and then it turned out we were at the
the same wedding. And actually, I was born in New York, but way upstate. But real
upstate.
Real upstate, yeah, not Hudson Valley upstate.
Not Hudson Valley upstate.
Come on, Hudson Valley, do better. And then also your partner Greg is good friends with one of my friends from California, so we have all these. I love that. It's so cool. And yeah, so you're primarily like kind of have been heavily involved in social justice work.
Yeah.
Right. Where did that start for you?
I think it started for me in high school. I was high school in New York City, and I started an environmental coalition. I had no politics, but I just was like,
save the earth.
Yeah. So I was dragging around garbage bags, picking up recycling from each classroom.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Environmentally concerned students for life.
Yay. 80s where there was no recycling, so you had to kind of do everything by hand.
I was a decade after you, so
okay.
Yeah, you had it a little harder. Thank you for your service.
And then I was in Oregon at school at Reed
College.
I had done work on AIDS and homelessness before then, but I ran into indigenous community that came to a movie theater and asked us to come help protect one of their sacred sites. So I jumped into a car the next day and went up to Mount Hood Forest, and about a week later took my first arrest, which was really powerful. There was some
took your first arrest. That's an interesting way of calling it.
Yeah.
Of saying it. Okay. It's like a rite of passage in the social justice world.
It was a rite of passage. I was with these really, we went way up into the forest, and luckily I was with women who really knew what they were doing, and they said, they're going to lie to you. They were called the Freddies, which were the forest, what do you call them? Forest reserve people, and then the cops. And so we all, we didn't share our names. We went limp. People had to carry us out of the forest. And we got out on our own recognizance, which meant we didn't have to pay anything. And it was just a very powerful experience of solidarity. So that got me into.
What does that mean? You didn't have to pay?
So we didn't have. They dropped our charges. They dropped the fines, and it was because we negotiated from inside the jail by refusing to give our names. So there was it was an action inside the jail solidarity, and we managed to get out.
Like a tactic.
It was a tactic. So I learned a lot, and it was very powerful and positive, and that kind of whet my appetite for being both involved in more social justice struggles, but also in doing direct action, where we were actually using getting arrested as a tactic towards bringing awareness to issues. So I did that for a number of years.
Yeah, it's a controversial thing, because people are like, why don't these people just follow the law? But what was the reasoning behind using it as a tactic? Like, how does that work as a tactic?
I mean, so I started in New York City. We started something called Reclaim the Streets New York City. It was a movement that started in London. And in the mid to late 90s, people weren't very activated. Like now you can put something out on social media and like thousands of people come into the street, but it was really hard. So we were, and this was with Arrow.
My buddy Arrow Chrome.
Arrow Chrome was our
Shout
DJ.
Out. Nice.
So we would have raves in the street around gentrification. So we would make palm cards, go to NYU, talk to people about gentrification, invite them to a party in the streets, and then people would show up and they would learn about gentrification, they would learn about capitalism, and we would have a dance party with a sound system welded into a cage in the middle of the street, and DJs transmitting from a truck a few blocks away using pirate radio technology, which Arrow really brought. And we would get arrested, and we would have really beautiful support. So when people got out of jail, they felt really knit into a new community. And that's how we sort of built the global justice movement in New York City.
What was the point of welding it in the cage just to make it harder for them to get it out?
So the cops couldn't get it off the street. And we would...
It was like welded to the street?
It was welded inside a cage, but we'd also send somebody up a 26-foot... we would make a tripod out of scaffolding, out of metal scaffolding, and then we'd put somebody on the top of the 26-foot scaffolding with wings on them. And so the cops had to get that person down safely and get the sound system out to stop the party. I mean, this was the 90s. This is what we did. Tactics kind of evolved since then, but it was actually a really powerful way to begin. And I met a lot of people through those moments.
Wow. It sounds beautiful. I love the way you describe it. It's so it sounds so artistic, and there's an art to it.
There was. We called it a carnival against capital, and it was very artistic, and just everybody brought whatever they had to the actions, and they were really joyful.
Reclaim the Streets still happening?
No, I mean, I think a lot of things.
Right.
A lot of different movements stand on the shoulders of previous movements,
right.
But that was sort of an early stage to the global justice movement, where we were often then going to sites where either the WTO, the World Bank and IMF, or the G7 were meeting, and we would do protests around the world. And we were very much saw ourselves as part of a global movement.
Was that the Battle for Seattle?
Yes.
Were you there?
Oh, yes. I went there a few months in advance, and that's really where I cut my teeth.
Are you running? Are you running from the police here?
No, I'm not. I've been very boring in recent years, but those were the days. Those were the days.
I mean, you got to stand up for what you believe in. If America stands for anything, the United States stands for anything, it's supposed to be, the right to protest and democracy and stand up for what you believe in. The whole country was founded on that. It so fascinates me watching the United States particularly fall into this desire for totalitarian control.
Yeah.
When it's in using founding fathers and these kind of iconic revolutionaries, and Jesus of all people, revolutionary, to create the justification for why we need to have totalitarian control and follow the leader.
Yep.
It's so crazy to me.
It's a scary moment in the United States right now, but it's been scary for a long time, and it's
true.
Not just, I mean, is the worst, but it's not only the Republicans that have been criminalizing dissent.
Oh.
Nobody with power has they've tried in different ways to quell dissent and get people to sort of acquiesce to whatever agenda people have.
Yeah, I that's always been my position, and gosh, I hope that we don't get flagged for this, because I realize sometimes YouTube will flag our episodes and block our programming because when you talk politics, which I think is kind of crazy, but it is what it is. And I totally agree. I think it's not a Republican or Democrat thing. It's very much this is a foundational situation, and you either think, you either desire freedom and celebrate diversity and celebrate people's rights, or you celebrate their control and manipulation.
Yeah.
Kind of as simple as that.
I mean, that for the battle in Seattle, that was really what it was about. Was we had organized using direct democracy. So we organized using a confederation of lots of different affinity groups that came from all over the country and some from other parts of the world. And we actually divided the city into a pie, and people would take little slices of pie and shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
But the point was really to teach people what true democracy could feel like. It was theater, but we actually did shut down the ministerial, and we wanted people to get a sense of the WTO as sort of the pinnacle of capitalism and colluding with state politics as an anti-democratic force, and what we were doing was the opposite.
Yeah, what is wrong with that? What is the problem with why is the WTO I mean, it's not even as big I mean, it still probably is quite a big organization. It's just not talked about anymore.
So they actually did. We were effective in shifting a little bit there, but the problem with the WTO is they were positioning themselves as a democratic organization, which really what their only focus was to determine whether something was a barrier to trade. And if it was WTO illegal. It wasn't whether it was a good idea. So for instance, in Guatemala, the Guatemalan government outlawed pictures of healthy babies on breast milk substitute because so many mothers were thinking that it was healthy to feed their babies breast milk substitute instead of breastfeeding them, and babies were getting
formula,
contaminated water and just having malnutrition. And so the Guatemalan government made it WTO illegal, and the WTO didn't care whether it was good for babies, just whether it was a barrier to Gerber's rights to be able to do whatever they want in Guatemala.
Right.
And so it was ruled WTO illegal, and they had to get rid of.
That's a really good example.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because obviously babies need their mother's milk, and of course those options exist, but it shouldn't be like, so it's just to sell more product basically at all costs.
At all costs, any cost.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we were fighting against.
Wow. Okay. Again, thank you for your service, madam. And you were also staying on that theme, heavily involved in Occupy, right?
I was.
What was your experience? I was there second day of Occupy. I was there with my friend Serotonin, who was a activist musician from Portland, and we were actually in a separate activist thing. We were not affiliated with Occupy at all. We were doing the GMO Right to Know March. It was a 300-mile march from Brooklyn, New York to Washington, D.C. to raise awareness about genetically modified organisms and how they were being, they weren't being labeled. And at the time, that president had said he would support labeling. And of course, the big agrochemical industries don't want that because that's bad for business if people know what they're eating. So we worked with this European march organizers to start this march. And so Serotonin and I flew in to be on the music. We were the music coordinators.
That's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And we ended up second day at Occupy. It just started. Yeah. And as we were marching, we were like stopping in, we had a lot of farm days too, but we were stopping in all these cities like, Philly, Baltimore, DC, and in each town we stopped at the Occupy camp that was just sprouting up. It was really like, it was like these little camps that just started in the middle of the city. Like you would have thought they were homeless camps, but they were very intentional. They were not homeless people. They were intentionally there to create a spectacle and raise awareness and yeah, well, why don't you describe what your experience was?
So I also arrived day 2. I have to say when I first heard about Occupy, my friends were sending me stuff, and I was friends with some of the founders, including David Graeber, who's deceased now, but was an amazing organizer. And I thought it looked ridiculous, and we had tried to take over, Occupy Wall Street at other moments in the past and always failed, and then this sort of like ragtag bunch of like scuzzy anarchists did it. And I was like, oh my God. So I told Greg, we were living in the Hudson Valley, and I was like, I am going to New York. So I went to New York, and I came back to the Hudson Valley 2 months later. But it was it was like a runaway train. It was amazing. It was emotionally really cathartic because it was right on the heels of an economic downturn where a lot of people felt a lot of shame around not being able to pay their rent or not having enough to, feed their families. And Occupy Wall Street was allowing people to come into Zuccotti Park and say, hey, this is not your fault. This is systemic. And all of us are here together really to like shine a light on that. And so we had the general assemblies, and it was a really, again, it was cathartic. We weren't allowed to use any sound equipment. And so we had to use what was called the people's mic, where I would say like a part of a sentence and then the crowd would repeat it. And sometimes once it got to be many thousands of people, it would be repeated multiple times. And that wasn't just ultimately for amplification, it actually gave people resonance. And so it was like beautiful to have thousands of people sharing your story back to you. And that was the most powerful part of Occupy Wall Street, was people feeling like, oh my God, I'm not alone in this.
All right, was it mic check? Was that mic
exactly.
check?
Mic check.
Mic check. Yeah, it's interesting to me, like looking back on it, because it was like such this thing, and now it does not even there anymore. It's like, I wonder, there's no way to really quantify change, I wonder how much influence it must have had. Some influence, though.
I think it did. I mean, if you look at when we were in the global justice movement, we didn't talk about capitalism. We talked about corporate globalization, because we thought if we talked about capitalism, we would lose people and people would just equate us with sort of like, communist Russia or China.
Right.
And at Occupy Wall Street, people were talking about the 1%, the 99%. It allowed people to talk about economic disparity and capitalism, like straight up. So it did really shift culture. And if you look at movements like the Black Lives Matter movement, they really took a lot of the tactics of Occupy. And that's, we all stand on each other's shoulders. We were standing on the shoulders of the anti-nuke movement of the 80s.
Right.
And, but there you can see the threads. And sometimes we make mistakes. We made tons of mistakes at Occupy Wall Street. It was traumatizing in many respects. And I know that some people here know Starhawk, who was very involved in Occupy.
She's been to our valley a few times.
And one time I couldn't facilitate one of our meetings. I would just it was just too crazy. And so I was like, okay, Starhawk will be able to facilitate this. And she was like, whoa.
No way.
It was, we were infiltrated, and there was just so much emotion that it was, I wouldn't say it was a grounded movement, but it was a very impactful one for a lot of people.
Yeah, that was a special time. That was crazy. I ended up going afterwards. After the march ended, we ended up with Occupy DC, in Lincoln Square Park, right there, tons of people. It felt like there was a really big movement happening. Actually, right after we marched across the bridge in Brooklyn, literally minutes after, Occupy showed up and shut down the bridge. It was day 3 or day 4 or something like that. It was a very powerful time.
Yeah.
When it felt like people had some taking back the power.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, amazing. And what brought you? Okay, so you had the Watershed Center. What is Watershed Center? It's a retreat center, right?
It's a retreat center, and I started it really on the heels of Occupy Wall Street. I'd had a collective that had been involved in bringing it to life, but we found land right after Occupy Wall Street in the Hudson Valley, and so we started a retreat center for social justice organizations, and we're 11 years old now. A lot of the first groups that came were groups that we were in relationship with through Occupy Wall Street, and it's a really beautiful. It's very, it's on a 75-acre organic farm. We have a lot of land partners. The organic farm is run by a collective called Rock Steady Farm. And so there's now 6 projects in this little valley.
Cool.
That are all doing different kinds of social justice work, cultural work, and a lot of agricultural work.
Cool.
So we have people come, again, from around the country, often from the New York area, sometimes internationally, and we host them, and we really we try to spoil the shit out of them so that they can relax and do the work that they're there to do. We've learned a lot over the years, and in recent years, I've started to get really excited about not just offering respite. I actually don't think that's what we need. I think
what do you mean by respite?
Just a space for people to kind of collapse and be fed and fall apart and be held in nature. That was kind of what I was thinking. And now I'm realizing that I think the most powerful thing we can offer is what I'm calling collective animation, of just offering spaces for people to be running in the woods together and being around a fire, and they might be crying, but they're doing it together, and being in our yurt dancing together. And we actually recently for New Year's in Aligria brought one of our staff member, Vomilo, who does this incredible
Okay, I watched Vomilo's performance.
So Vomilo's performance, which is very much about bringing people into their most vulnerable self while dancing together and feeling their power and feeling like a lot of self-acceptance and love, but dancing in unison. Like he gives everyone dance steps and you're dancing to his really beautiful, positive music. And we do that for every single group that comes to Watershed, and it often just shifts
But Milo
the
performs
energy.
for all of them.
All of them. Any of them that want to.
Right.
But a lot of groups were like, oh my God, we want Milo to perform. And it shifts the energy because it brings people into like a collective energetic space together. And it helps, it like creates a kind of a spiritual force. And so that's what we're really thinking about now. We're wanting to up that part of Watershed, like bring in more music and art and create collective spaces that are not online, like where people put down their phones, put away their computers, and are like in energetic motion together. So that's what we're excited about.
Community experiences. Well, we should collaborate because that's
what
what we do here. That's
exactly.
Exactly our mission.
Yeah.
Is with nature as a collaborator as well.
Yeah.
And the river.
And the cicadas.
And the chicharras. So we can't. They're so essential into the process. So yeah, okay. Well, what brought you to Aligria? You are my neighbor. So Brooke is my neighbor, and Greg, they are my neighbor in Aligria. And those of you who watch know it's a 140 family Ecovillage community project right across the street.
So
how'd you find out about it?
I found out about it from Alan Goodman and Haya Heller.
Shout out Alan and Haya.
So Alan was actually on our board at Watershed, and Haya is one of my oldest friends and my mentor in my political philosophy. She was my teacher, and then we became very good friends. And they called me, I don't know, somewhere in the early parts of the pandemic, and they're like, would you guys want to join an eco community in Costa Rica? And I was like, that's ridiculous. And then 3 days later, I was like, yeah. It's like, I really want to check it out. So
what changed your mind?
I mean, just like the pandemic, being stuck inside.
Right.
I was, I quarantined quite a bit for personal reasons. And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I need to be outside in the wintertime. And it was just so miserable. And sorry for keeping you off of YouTube.
It's okay. But listen, if you're watching this, we need your grassroots support to spread this to people, because I'm concerned that YouTube is gonna but you know what?
We'll go back and edit and we'll just call him Cheeto. You can't just call him
Cheeto. Yeah, let's just put Cheeto over every Cheeto.
You can just put inaudible. just bleep me out. I'm fine with being bleeped.
Can we bleep her out?
You can bleep out.
Can we bleep out every mention of Cheeto?
Of Cheeto.
Look.
But in any case, I was depressed and in New York and talked to Norman Brooks, and it just sounded heavenly. But more so just, I didn't come here for a number of years. Greg came and checked out our lot, and we but I got really involved in the governance, which felt to me, I think you probably have gotten a sense now. I don't know if you know this, but in those movements that I was involved in the governance part.
Yeah.
I was involved in facilitating and coming up with structures, which is my freaking favorite thing to do in the whole world.
Wow.
And so,
I hate it, but it's actually what makes it work.
I love it. You have a bylaw, give it to me. I'll read it. I love it.
Okay.
But so coming here, we were tasked with building a community together, and it felt like playing house to me. So it's like I always looked forward to our governance circle meetings, which were for a long time once a week in the early years, and just building out the governance structure for this community and doing it really slowly and intentionally was just a total joy. And it's been a lot of work. I'm very thankful in many ways that it wasn't a turnkey kind of experience where we all just kind of came in and our houses were built, and I felt like we all kind of
can't imagine you at something like that.
No, but I didn't know, but we really just, Aligria is a community of people who really like to work together, and just watching people in the farm, kids and older people getting dirty, both in terms of the actual soil, but also in terms of really thinking about governance and what kind of community we want. So that's been it's my favorite. It's my happy place. I love being here.
I'm happy to hear that. And I also love hanging out with Aligria members. It's just it feels the good vibes are always so good over there. You guys are doing something right, and I'm happy to see you. Like it, you're right. It takes work, but it can be fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate to hear that you like it so much.
And I also, I think for me,
do you ever get frustrated?
Oh yeah, I've been frustrated, but I mean, I just trust people. Like we get frustrated together. But I think also, I had the sense that we were entering into a community that was interested in being in right relationship with the Ticos in our region. And that's been an ongoing unfolding process. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's really important. And I feel like there's a lot to do there. But I feel like most of the people in Aligria that I'm close with are super committed to figuring out how to build relationships where we're not just colonizing this area, but actually giving back in a way that's desired by the community, which isn't tricky. And I'm sure there's lots of aspects of these eco communities are not desired by the local community, but we can do our best to walk as well as we can.
I think of all the places I've been, I would say I think we're doing something right around here. I feel like there's a general consciousness around that sort of thing. You go to other communities in Costa Rica where it's like and in Nicaragua is even worse. It's like there's the gringos and then there's everyone else is just a working class. And I don't feel that sense here. I'm sure maybe there's some who might disagree, but I do think like we're on the right train, and I think there's a lot of people here who are conscious of it, and that makes a big difference. Like no one,
you've been here 20 years.
18
18 years. That's building a depth of relationship.
Yeah, and beyond that, I mean, half of our members are, well, at least a quarter of our members in Tacotal are Costa Rican, and not a quarter of it Aligria, but there's a few Costa Ricans involved there. Yeah. I just have come to realize it's not even so much about what nationality or where you're born, because I've met very wealthy Costa Ricans that don't relate to local campesinos. It's the same thing in the U.S. It's like there's very wealthy Americans that don't relate to the house cleaner, the working class. And it's more about that, I think, than it is even about where you're from, as much as like, yes, there is a general difference in what you bring, especially if you're coming from New York, where it's like, that's an area of wealth, and where money and capitalism is it's a strong aspect there. Right.
I think that's really true. And I think, there's being in right relationship, but then there's also, I worry about us pricing out people, which I know is a real issue in this valley
Absolutely.
And so.
Well, if I moved here today, I couldn't afford to live here. So it's not, that's what I'm saying. It's not just, I don't see it as just a Tico problem. I see it as it's a gentrification capitalism problem, and capitalism is the thing that everyone's chosen to go with for some reason, and it's always going to be that way. I think it's just the nature of the game. I wonder if there's any, I mean, I don't know what we can do to change that without putting very strict, regulations and like caps on things, but it's.
I think
You think we should do that?
I mean, I'm excited about the democratic socialism in New York City right now. I mean, nobody would ever have thought that was possible, that we would have a 30-some-year-old mayor who's very clear about being a democratic socialist. I think that's so beautiful.
It'll be
and it does require regulation. And I am not opposed to regulation. I think the beauty of democracy is actually making democratic decisions that serve the whole, and it will impinge upon individual freedom. That's sort of the difference. There's, people talk a lot about freedom, but to me, there's collective freedom and individual freedom. And they're almost opposed to each other.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have, if you are somebody who sees your individual freedom as being
the apex,
you can see individual freedom as like, I am most free when I feel like my community is thriving together. So that to me would be collective freedom, but I feel a lot of individual, like I feel being in community in Aligria with people thriving there and feeling like we're doing things ethically allows me to feel like I can be more free too. So I feel like there is a lot of sort of like libertarianism that is about individual freedom, and that is not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in collective freedom that has a democratic aspect to it.
It's interesting because I see Costa Rica as a very, it's both actually, and I think you can have both because Costa Rica has a social democracy, or it's more moving into less socialist as it used to be. But in the 70s, it was very much socialist government, and yet there's a whole anarchy aspect that happens here. There is a like a independence thing where you can kind of get away with things as long as it's within a certain you're not impinging on people's deep rights. So I wonder if it's possible to have both. But yeah, it's tricky because it's a tricky line to.
It is tricky, and I think I do find living in a community where both of those notions of freedom are alive and well. It's actually really, like, I find it enlivening and interesting because I live in a bit of a lefty bubble where I live.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously my town is very mixed, but my little bubble of projects in my life can be very, very lefty, and which I obviously appreciate. But I like the diversity of opinions and that I found in Aligria.
Yeah,
I know what side I fall on, and I actually find it pretty beautiful to be in Costa Rica. Costa Rica has such a international reputation and has offered so much leadership around peace and around reconciliation processes and
ecology,
totally. But also like mediation. There's so much depth there that I feel like I'm excited for us in Aligria to deepen into our understanding of what are some of the technologies around peace and reconciliation that Costa Rica has created.
Very interesting. Diving. Yeah. Well, keep us posted.
Got to work in my Espanol a little bit.
Yeah, it's important. Fortunately, the Ticos are some of the most open-minded and forgiving about about that. So yeah, as long as you're working on it.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
We have so much more we could talk about, but we have run out of time.
All right, thank you.
Brooke Lehman, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
I love having these conversations, and I hope we didn't offend too many people.
I mean, just a few.
This is La Vida Verde podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Human. We release episodes regularly. I want to say thank you so much to Wilderness Poets for your ceremonial matcha. They have a great line of products. You can check them out on wildernesspoets.com. They have nut butters. They have, oh my gosh, the miso nooch is like the most incredible thing. And also like Japanese teas, super high quality. I drink it at least 3 times a week. So go check them out. If you're watching this, you're on youtube.com/La Vida Verde podcast. If you're listening, you might be on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. We are on Instagram at Finca Vida Verde CR. We're on Facebook, Finca Vida Verde. FincaVidaVerde.com is our website. If you'd like to host a nature retreat, maybe even collaborate with Brooke and I, contact me, and we're happy to do that. And if you love these episodes and this podcast, please go to our Patreon, patreon.com/La Vida Verde podcast. And you can, $5 a month goes a long way. It's collective support. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Pura vida.